Greta Gerwig,
Yes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I know you and I were just talking for like a couple of minutes before, and we thought we were on.
I thought I was on. I mean, now you'll really see my personality sparkle.
I really loved the film.
Great.
I read that you were nervous going on set.
Yes.
What were you worried about?
Well, I just, this sounds semi-ridiculous, but I love movies so much. I love cinema so much. And I had always wanted to be a writer-director, but I didn't go to film school proper. So I really used all the time on film sets, both behind the camera and in front of the camera, as my film school. And when I'd written this screenplay, I knew that it was time and that this was the project I should direct, but I so badly wanted to make something that cinema could be proud of, which is dumb. Cinema
So, like,
has no feelings about itself.
When you say something that like not necessarily the audience would love, but something that will stand the test of time in the annals of cinema.
I mean, I wanted the audience to really love it, but also just I didn't want to disrespect the form. I wanted to really know what I was doing and what I was talking about. So that's how I felt. But then I also I felt like I, consciously and unconsciously learned all this stuff, about directing. And this sounds like a semi-silly example, but it felt like, the moment in The Karate Kid when he realizes he can do karate because he's been working on those cars?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it felt like, I was like, I know karate.
Yeah,
And it felt like all of the nerves, once I was there, I was like, oh, I know this. I know how to do this from beginning to end.
Was there a specific moment where you realized that? Was there a specific moment where the bell went off and you went, oh, I can do this?
Well, in a way, there were bells kind of going off the whole time. I think when I was casting the movie, the way I was working with the actors who were coming in and auditioning for me, I felt like that bell went off. When I started soft prep of working with my cinematographer, Sam Levy, on...
Soft prep is like when you get together beforehand and talk it out.
Just talk it out and
Right.
look at references and look at different movies and talk about paintings and photography and shot list and use storyboard. And in that collaboration with Sam, I was like, okay, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. And in sort of like at every step, it would be like another little bell was like, actually, you know very well what this is, and you're very comfortable here. And then, it's just that filmmaking is one of the very few timed art forms. It's timed. When you're on set with your actors and you're actually getting the movie, you're on the clock the entire time.
Because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, every single minute is expensive. So every minute you're spending doing one thing, you're not spending that minute doing something else. So it takes an amount of concentration that I think is in a sustained concentration, which is pretty unparalleled. You have to do this level of intensity for 14 hours a day for 2 months, and that doesn't include all the time before or all the time after editing. But really, that the actual being on set of it is it's like sprinting, but sprinting for the length of 5 marathons.
And did it give you greater perspective on, because you started acting young, right?
Well, youngish. I mean, I
How
was
old?
in. I had been acting and writing and doing stuff in a non-professional capacity for a very long time.
Yeah.
But professionally, in my early 20s.
Right. So were there moments where you were in this film and you said, oh, I thought I was just acting. Like, I can't get over how hard this was for them. Like, now I have a greater appreciation for the craft that...
Oh, actors.
Directors have.
No, I mean, I've always had an appreciation for the craft of directing.
Well, but back to that Karate Kid thing you were saying.
Yeah.
Was there any specific moment from your past, from your film experience that you were able to draw on?
Yeah, I mean, hugely so. I had been taking notes the whole time because I got to work with all these different directors and not only different directors, but different cinematographers, different costume designers, production designers, assistant directors, all of these different people who make up the actual village that makes the film. And I stole from all of them. And I also...
What did you steal?
Tons of things, little things and big things.
Give me an example of a little thing.
A little thing is, I did a film with Mike Mills called 20th Century Women, and he had his entire crew, and including him, everyone wore name tags.
Like, hi, my name is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that seems like a small thing, but it's a huge thing because actually actors are brought on set when it's time to go, and the lighting's all ready and the set's all dressed, and they have a much smaller amount of time to actually get to know the people on set with them. Like, they have grip and electric and the set dresser and the boom operator and all these people, and it makes everybody into a person and not just a role or a cog in the machine. So I stole that from him. But I had very active conversations with all my filmmaker friends before I went to direct this. And I had the little things I'd picked up from them and big things I'd picked up from them. And then I also had conversations where they gave me very direct advice.
I don't want to paint this film as autobiographical because it's not. And I mean, it has fragments of your life in it. And I'll get into that in a minute. But when you met Saoirse Ronan, it was here in Toronto, right?
Yes, it was. It was at the 2015 TIFF.
And you guys went to a hotel room and talked about the...
Yeah, well, actually, I went to her hotel room. She was here with Brooklyn, and I was here with Maggie's Plan. And she had read the script, and she really responded to it from her heart. And she said, you know, I know I'm from Ireland, a tiny town all the way across the world, but I'm telling you, I know this, and I know this story, and I know this girl, and I need to do this.
What did you see in her?
Well, so we met up and we read the script out loud, and she read all of Ladybird's lines, and I read everybody else's lines, and I knew within 2 pages that she was the person. I knew she was Ladybird.
How did you know?
Because I started getting ideas right away about how I wanted to shoot it and what I wanted her to wear, and it hit my ear right, and it's very musical for me, and it's like it just dropped in.
Did you see something of yourself in her?
No, I mean, it's funny. Like, Saoirse and I are very much in love, but different from each other. But also, we're both different from Ladybird. Ladybird is so much of a wilder character than I ever was. And I mean, I never made anyone call me by a different name. I was kind of a kid I was very people-pleasing.
You were a rule follower.
I was. I liked a gold star. I liked to know that I was coloring inside the lines.
You crossed on the crosswalk.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was some unconscious exploration of what I couldn't have enough bravery to actually do. But, I mean, I did give my mother hell, which I feel very badly about now.
Didn't we all?
I know. My mom.
I feel bad about it too. Sometimes,
I do. I mean, and the older I get, it's almost like every month another thing will occur to me, and I'll think, oh my God, she was right about that.
Yeah.
Oh, and she was right about that other thing too.
Yeah, I know.
Is there a single thing that she wasn't right about?
Sometimes I feel like all I want to do is sit. And maybe I should do it to sit down with my mom and go, you know what? Sorry about that.
Sorry. I know.
Sorry about that.
I know. Me too.
I've never been to Sacramento. The film is set in Sacramento. You're from Sacramento, California.
Yes.
I've never been before.
Yeah.
What kind of place is Sacramento, California?
It's a beautiful place. It's at the top of the agricultural valley in California, which people always forget about when they think about California.
Yeah, it's that's where they went in the Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, it's a big agricultural valley running through the center of the state. They're listening to the Grapes of Wrath at the beginning of the movie.
I did notice that.
Which I just thought there was something so kind of ironically funny to me about being so moved by this story of Dust Bowl farmers, which, like, in all realism, that was probably her family, because that's how a lot of people got to California, especially that part of California. And then just being such a brat about being there and saying how much you want to leave after the people who came before you struggled so much to get there.
Well, she says, what does she say? Something like, I wish I could experience something. All I want is to live through something.
Yeah, she says, I wish I could live through something.
And like, you have no idea.
I know. You're like, you don't really. You don't, and it's like not even be able to appreciate all the things that have been given to you that you take for granted.
But the vibe I got is that, like, it's I've never been, but it's not like it's close to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have.
No. It's 8 hours north of Los Angeles.
Is it close to San Francisco?
Closer to San Francisco.
So it's close to
right.
San Francisco. Well, it's 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm from a town that's like 12 hours away from a boat to get to the rest of the
Right.
world. So it's 8 hours from Los Angeles.
It's 2 hours from San Francisco.
2 hours from San Francisco.
Yeah.
It does not necessarily have have the glitz or glamour of either of those two places.
No. It's a more middle class, more it's a government town because it's the capital of California. But it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place to raise a family. It's a great place to have kids. It's a very low key city. There's it's a strong middle class city.
Did you learn something new about it making this film?
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking about how you want to shoot a city is always a way to see it with new eyes, to try to capture something that is beautiful, but without gussying it up at all. And the watchword that the cinematographer and I had the whole time was we wanted every single shot to be plain and luscious. So that was the way that we wanted to look at things.
But did you see, so now do you see your hometown differently than you did before?
I don't know that differently. I think
I don't mean visually. I mean because it seems to be about someone. The film seems to be about someone understanding the specialness of a place that they hate.
Right. I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a 17-year-old who says, you know what, my hometown is awesome, and my family also awesome. I think so much of being 17 is defining yourself against who you are and where you're from. And I think for me, I kind of knew Sacramento was great while I was growing up there, but I certainly it became more and more vivid as I was gone and as I stayed away. But my parents still live there. My brother lives there with his family. My best friend lives there. I still have really strong ties there. And every time I go back, I think, oh man, it's so great here.
There was a really great moment. If you're listening to this, by the way, I'm Tom Power. I'm speaking with Greta Gerwig. Her new film, her first as a solo director and writer, is called Ladybird. And last night I went to see the film in Toronto, and your flight got delayed.
Yes.
And I really loved. I hope you don't mind me talking about it.
No.
But so at the end of a lot of these press screenings, there's a Q&A, usually facilitated by someone from the film company or like a journalist, and they'll get up and ask you, and people will get up and ask you questions, and you kind of gave a Q&A from your phone from the airport because you couldn't get in, where you answered all the questions you figured you'd be asked.
That's right. Yeah.
Like how much of you is in this film. What is it like to be a director after being an actor for so long?
Yeah.
But one thing you said really stuck out to me. It said, you never really know, it was something along the lines of, you never really understand or appreciate your home until you leave it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. I think it's very hard to see things clearly while you're in it. And I think, it's one of the universal truths and tragedies. But I mean, I think the ability to be able to look back and actually say, oh, that was right. And I think, again, particularly for teenagers, you're so certain that life with a capital L is happening somewhere else and that it's not happening to you, and you got to go get to life.
Did you feel that way? Like, was it about getting out? Did you want to get out?
No, I mean, I didn't quite have the I got to get out thing that Ladybird has. But I did have a feeling, I did have this certainty that life was going to start at some point, and that I hadn't been living through it. And there's shows the depth of my musical theater nerdiness. There's a song in a chorus line where I don't know how well you know a chorus line.
Not very well, I'm sorry to say.
And it's just like. It's just they're singing about their teenage years, like hello 12, hello 13, hello love. It's great. It's a great number. You should definitely check it out. Mm-hmm. But I felt like that sort of like, now life can really begin, and now life really begins. That's how that song ends. Like, and I think the truth is, you get to the place that you think life should be happening, and then you're like, oh wait, it has been happening. Oh no, I missed it.
It's been happening all along.
It's been happening all along. I think that's so true of so many things. You're always waiting to get to the thing that you think will be the thing, and you realized it was already happened.
It's funny you mention musicals because a lot of this film is set in high school, a Catholic high school. Yeah. One for girls, one for boys. They meet at Mass. And a part of this show, it's 1933 apparently.
Part of this picture.
Part of this talkie happens happens making a musical.
Yes.
How much of your own high school experience? Because like one thing that stuck to me is how deeply you feel your firsts. Your first kiss, your first love, your first person you have sex with. Yeah. It's such high school can be such an opening time for you.
Sure.
You know, how much of your own personal high school experience was in this?
Well, I was a way more invested in musical theater than our heroine was.
Right. But that was at least there.
Yeah. I mean, I had her do it, but I mean, I did 4 musicals a year the entire time I was there.
Did them all, Damn Yankees?
I did them all. I actually never did Damn Yankees.
Oklahoma?
No, I did. What did I do? I did Into the Woods. I did The Boyfriend. I did Wizard of Oz. Actually.
Who were you?
I was Dorothy.
Ooh, badass.
Yeah,
wow,
I know.
Pretty good.
I know. I never thought I'd get the part, but they were doing sort of like an alternative version where there was a punk Dorothy, and I was that. But yeah. So I mean, I was super involved with musical theater, and it's not none of the events are like literally the things that happened to me, but what I did want to capture was the vividness of those experiences. And this is kind of a complicated point to make, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
I felt like I wanted to honor the movie Ladybird thinks she's in without actually making that movie.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, meaning like most movies about teenage girls, there's one guy. That's how they work. That there's like the guy that you're supposed to be with, or that's supposed to be with you. That's the one. And I didn't want to make that movie. I wanted to have 2 guys and have them both be wrong. But I also wanted to acknowledge that those are the movies that Ladybird grew up with, so that when she's with Danny, man, does she believe she found the one. And that we have the vividness of that moment and being like, geez, man, I know exactly where she is. And that girl went to Titanic growing up, and I totally get it.
She watched 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to sing to her on the bleachers.
Yeah, that's Heath Ledger. Like, that's her guy. Yeah. And then also being like, I understand the feeling, and that is not the film you're in. And
because we are kind of living in our own movies sometimes, aren't we?
Yeah, and certainly teenagers. You certainly, you don't. It's like teenagers in particular. I feel like are pretending to have both adult morality and adult stories, and where they get that from mostly is films. I guess now Snapchat. I have no idea where people get ideas now.
they get it 5 seconds at a time.
Yeah, they don't know what it is.
At the end of your kind of Q&A last night, you said, all I want for people to do when they walk out of this theater is to call their moms.
Yeah.
I texted my mom.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
I texted my mom as soon as I got out.
You didn't want to hear about the weather and what was going on in the neighborhood?
No, I was all right. I have an idea.
I
have a nice. It's usually cold and rainy.
Cold and rainy.
That's usually how it goes.
And Karen's foot hurts again.
Yeah, exactly. How did you know?
I don't know. I mean, I got some good mom tracks.
How much of your own relationship with your mom is in this?
Well, again, Laurie's character of Marion is different than my mom.
She's incredible, by the way.
Oh God, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
But the core of that complicated, loving relationship is very much reflected. I mean, I don't know a single. I mean, it's not just. I mean, mothers and daughters are very specific, but I think it's that thing when I've shown the movie and I talk to people afterwards. Really, so many people, they say that they talk to me about their mom or their daughter or their son, and so many parents have come up to me and they say, "I just dropped my kid off at college, and man, I know," and that's what's really like that's what's really been gratifying about it, and I mean, certainly I think. I have some experience of fighting with my mom, and that certainly went in there. But I mean, I think the reason the fights are so intense is also because you're the same,
and because you made it an and. Like in a lot of films, it's my mom was mean, but she loved me.
Yeah.
Or my mom was nice to me, but she didn't really care about me.
Yeah.
In this film, it's because oftentimes Laurie Metcalf's character is quite awful.
Yeah.
And she's awful. And she loves her.
Right. It's I'm also interested in both and always rather than either or kind of modifying something. I think the truth is, there's times when Marion says, says just the most wrong thing she could say. And there are times when Ladybird is a complete jerk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not ultimately who either of them are, but it is a part of who they are in that moment. And I feel like so often, particularly with mothers in Hollywood, they're painted with one color or at most two. And I feel like that's just not what I see. I feel like most people are making tons of mistakes and tons of right moves, and you figure that if there's enough love, it's going to be okay.
They're going to come in and grab you in a minute, but I want to ask you one more question before they do.
Okay.
You hear this a lot with novels. You hear this a lot with fiction, that you spend your entire life writing your first novel.
Oh, yeah.
You spend your entire life making your first album.
Sure.
And you spend your entire life making your first film. Like, whether you know it or not. It's again, it's that thing about when does real life start? Turns out you've been writing this film since you were in the womb.
Yeah.
So do you think you're going to do it again?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I also feel kind of odd because I feel like I've gotten the first film experience a few times because of how I've worked. That, I feel like the quality of I think really the quality of being completely tapped out when you're done writing something, of feeling like, good Lord, I might never have anything to say again. I've had that feeling at least 3 times. And I know now that feeling is the feeling that the new thing comes out of. But I had that out of Frances Ha. I was like, oh, God, I don't know that I have another story. And I did. And then after Mistress America, I had it again. And, after this movie, I had it again. And then out of that silence, I started writing again. So
you're writing now?
Oh, yeah. But I have to feel the deep silence and emptiness, and then I have to let something else come. But yeah, writing and directing is what I love, and I hope that I get to keep making films, because I think I have a lot more in me.
I hope you do too. I have to watch a lot of films, and I rarely like them as much as I like this film.
Thank
whatever
you so
that's
much.
Worth. Thank you so much for coming in.
That's worth it.
That's worth something.
It's worth it. It's worth a lot.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.